Asterisk, asterisk. Young Sal Mineo stood before the twisted wreckage of James Dean's Porsche, thinking, "I could have been in that car," as the calendar showed the 1st of October 1955. Only 24 hours had passed since Dean's death. Hollywood had lost the lead actor of Rebel Without a Cause. Sal was unaware of how his mentor's death would alter his own fate. Within 5 years, he would earn 2 Oscar nominations, be declared Hollywood's golden boy, and then, almost overnight, the industry would abandon him. This entire journey would unfold during the 5 critical years following Dean's death. Asterisk, asterisk. Sal Mineo would never forget his first encounter with James Dean on the set of Rebel Without a Cause. That meeting at Warner Brothers Studios in the summer of 1955 changed the life of the 6-year-old Italian-American boy. Dean had already become a phenomenon with his performance in East of Eden. He was a charismatic young man with eyes that shone with a special intensity. "When I first saw you, my heart stopped," Sal would recount years later in an interview. James Dean was standing there smoking a cigarette, and the whole room seemed to revolve around him. Then he turned his eyes to me and smiled. That smile changed my life. While casting for Rebel Without a Cause, director Nicholas Ray was looking for a special actor for the character of Plato. The character was a fragile, sensitive youth, abandoned by his family. Sal's performance at the auditions deeply impressed the director. "There's a soul in this boy's eyes," Ray told studio executives. "Perfect for the role of Plato." On set, Dean immediately took Sal under his wing. A special bond formed between them. Dean taught the young actor method acting techniques, guiding him to explore the emotional depths of his character. During breaks between sets, they would talk for hours, sometimes taking drives on Los Angeles' deserted roads in Dean's Porsche. "James taught me more than acting," Sal would recall. "He showed me a different way of looking at life, of feeling the world. Everything I learned from him shaped me not just as an actor, but as a person." Natalie Wood also became close friends with them on set. The 3 young actors clung to each other amid Hollywood's strict rules and expectations. The film portrayed 3 young people struggling against society's expectations, a theme that resonated in their own lives. One of the film's most memorable scenes took place in an abandoned mansion. Plato, Jim, Dean, and Judy Wood created a pretend family for one night. For Plato's character, this was his first real experience of belonging. Sal's performance was deep, sincere, real. "When filming that scene, I thought about my own childhood," he would later recount. "My father worked long hours. My mother took care of 4 children. Sometimes I felt lonely." Those feelings surfaced when portraying Plato. When the film was completed, studio executives had high hopes. However, shortly before the film's release, tragic news shocked Hollywood. James Dean died in a horrific car accident near Cholame, California, on the 30th of September 1955. He was only 24 years old. News of Dean's death profoundly affected Sal Mineo. The sudden loss of his mentor, friend, and on-screen brother turned the young actor's world upside down. He couldn't attend the funeral. His family wouldn't allow it because he was too young. Instead, he sat at home crying and reflecting on his memories with Dean. "A part of me died with him," he would later say. "When James died, we didn't just lose a great talent. I lost a guide, a brother, a friend." Dean's death also changed the destiny of Rebel Without a Cause. When the film was released in October, it received enormous attention as Dean's last completed film. Critics praised the performances of the three young actors, Dean, Wood, and Mineo. Sal Mineo's portrayal of Plato left a profound impact on audiences. This role would become the turning point in his career. At just 17, he was nominated for an Academy Award in the Best Supporting Actor category, one of the youngest male actors ever nominated in this category. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to continue following Sal Mineo's incredible rise in Hollywood. Every week, we share the true stories of unforgettable stars in cinema history. The Oscar nomination opened new doors in Sal's career. He was no longer just a child star, but a serious actor. Film offers began pouring in. Studios placed great hopes on the young actor they marketed as the new James Dean. Famous Warner Brothers producer Jack Warner summoned Sal to his office after the success of Rebel Without a Cause. Sitting behind a large mahogany desk in his lavish office, Warner carefully examined the 17-year-old. "We're watching you, son," said Warner, joining his fingertips. "We lost James, but I see a piece of his spirit in you. I want to see you in big projects." Sal felt that this conversation was as intimidating as it was honoring. Filling Dean's void, this seemed an impossible task. "I just want to be myself, Mr. Warner," he said hesitantly. Warner smiled. "In Hollywood, nobody is just themselves, Sal. We sell images, we sell stories. And you are currently our best-selling story." After this conversation, Sal's agenda quickly began to fill. First, he signed for the film Crime in the Streets. In this film, he portrayed Frankie Dane, an angry street gang leader. The role was very different from Plato in Rebel Without a Cause. It was tougher, more dangerous. On the film set, director Don Siegel worked closely with him. "Sal, violence isn't in you," he told him one day, "but as an actor, you can find it. There's darkness in every person." Sal took these words seriously. For his role, he mentally returned to his old gang days in the Bronx. He remembered the fear and anger of those days. His performance was impressive. So impressive that studio executives watching behind the camera began to worry. "Too real," one of them had said. "Too disturbing. It might drive away our young female fans." The years 1956 to 1957 were the brightest period in Sal's career. He starred in films like Crime in the Streets, Rock, Pretty Baby, and Dino. Dino in particular was a special film for him. In this production, he portrayed a youth from a street gang trying to turn his life around. He drew from his Bronx childhood experiences for the role. Fan magazines featured him on their covers, young girls wrote letters, and producers lined up for interviews. Sal Mineo was Hollywood's shining star. Time magazine dedicated a special issue to him with the headline, "The Kid from Rebel Without a Cause Grows Up." However, behind the scenes, concern had begun among studio executives. Sal was physically changing, moving away from his childlike appearance. One of the Warner Brothers executives had said in a meeting in 1957, "Mineo is no longer that cute kid. His type might not sell anymore." During this period, stereotypical roles were common in Hollywood. Italian-American actors in particular were confined to gangsters, street kids, or ethnic supporting characters. Sal didn't want to fit into this mold. He was searching for deeper, more complex roles. In 1958, he portrayed a Native American warrior in Tonka. This was one of the first signs of him being directed toward ethnic roles. Hollywood wanted to use his Italian heritage as exotic, trying to pigeonhole him into a specific category. At the same time, Sal's private life had also come under Hollywood's control. The studio wanted him to maintain a clean image. Arrangements were made for him to befriend young actresses like Jill Hayworth. Fan magazines fabricated stories about his romantic relationships. This period was a time when Sal's identity struggle deepened. On one hand, he had to maintain the image created by the studio. On the other hand, he was confronting his inner truth. In an interview with Modern Cinema magazine, he said, "Sometimes I look in the mirror and don't recognize who I'm seeing. Is that person me or someone that somebody else wants to create?" Warner Bros. Press officer Marty Cohen carefully managed Sal's public image. Arrangements were made for photographs with Jill Hayworth at a famous beach. At parties at Chateau Marmont, it was planned which Hollywood stars he would interact with. Sometimes, instead of denying love rumors fabricated by the press, the studio encouraged these stories. "I would sit in these meetings where these imaginary relationships were arranged, feeling like a chess piece," Sal would later tell a friend. "My real feelings, my desires were never asked about. What mattered was how the public would perceive it." Cohen warned Sal one day, "There are some rumors, Sal. You need to be careful. Who your friends are, where you go, these things can affect your career." This veiled warning was the beginning of Sal's dual life in Hollywood. In front of the camera, he exhibited an image that conformed to society's and the studio's expectations. Behind the camera, there was a young man trying to discover his true identity and feelings. In safe environments with a few close friends, he could talk about his feelings for Dean. "James wasn't just a mentor to me," he confessed one night. "He was the first person who helped me understand myself." During this period, there were very few artists in Hollywood who openly lived their sexual orientations. The studio system made great efforts to ensure its stars appeared normal and acceptable. Sal was in silent resistance against this system. "I felt like I was turning into a puppet," he would recount years later. "Who I was, what I wanted didn't matter. What mattered was how the studio wanted to market me." During this period, pressure on Sal's true identity began to increase. Rumors circulated. Whispers spread through Hollywood's corridors. Questions about his sexual orientation were seen as a factor that could threaten his career. 1959 was a critical turning point for Sal Mineo. Otto Preminger cast him as Dov Landau in Exodus. This was one of the most ambitious and challenging roles in his career. Dov was a Jewish youth who survived the Holocaust and joined Israel's founding struggle. Sal made extensive preparations for this role. He went to Israel, conducted interviews with Holocaust survivors, and researched Jewish culture and history. Despite his Italian Catholic background, he tried to internalize the pain and hopes of his Jewish character. The 2-week preparation process in Tel Aviv changed Sal's life. His interviews with Holocaust survivors were particularly affecting. A 76-year-old man named David Berger shared his own experiences with Sal. He recounted what he lived through at Auschwitz, losing his family, and the guilt of survival. "When I saw the pain in Mr. Berger's eyes, I understood that acting wasn't just pretending, but truly feeling another person's pain," Sal had explained in an interview. "After that day, my approach to the Dove character completely changed. While in Israel, Sal spent a week at a kibbutz collective. He worked the land, began learning Hebrew, and observed Jewish traditions. He also changed his external appearance. He cut his hair short, his skin bronzed from the sun, and he physically strengthened. Dov is someone fighting with life. He had written in a letter to his family, "I'm stepping outside my comfort zone to find his strength." When he returned from Israel, Otto Preminger couldn't recognize him. "This isn't our sweet Mineo," the director had told his team. "This is a warrior." On the Exodus set, Sal encountered Preminger's harsh directing style. The famous director expected perfection from his actors and could shout at them for the slightest mistake. This challenging environment contributed to the depth of Sal's performance. "Preminger pushed me," he would recall. "He brought me to such a point that I wasn't acting anymore. I was truly feeling that pain, that fear, that hope." During filming, when Preminger shouted at Sal on set one day, the film crew froze. "Hollywood will finish you, kid. They will never accept you in adult roles." Sal's eyes welled with tears, but he suppressed his emotions and continued his performance. At that moment, he was unaware that the director's words were a prophecy. When Exodus was released in 1960, it achieved great success. Despite a cast full of big stars like Paul Newman and Eva Marie Saint, Sal's performance stood out. At 21, he was nominated for an Academy Award in the Best Supporting Actor category for the second time. This was an extraordinary achievement. As an actor who had earned 2 Oscar nominations before even turning 22, Sal Mineo was regarded as one of Hollywood's brightest young talents. The Oscar night was held with a magnificent ceremony. Sal, in a splendid tuxedo, walked the star parade while camera flashes popped. The Italian boy from the Bronx was now attending the world's most prestigious film awards ceremony as a nominee for the second time. That night, he didn't win the award, but his position in the industry had been solidified. Producers and directors lined up to congratulate him. "Your time has come," they said. "Now it's time for big roles." In the following weeks, big offers indeed began to arrive. A call came from Universal Pictures. He was invited to auditions for Alfred Hitchcock's new film. There was an offer from Paramount to play Marlon Brando's brother in a new Western film. Variety magazine placed Sal third on their Hollywood's 10 Most Wanted Actors list. Some critics wrote that he was not just a child star, but a real actor. His manager, Al Melnick, came with a new script almost every day. "The phone won't stop ringing," he said excitedly. "Everyone wants you, Sal." One night, in his room at Chateau Marmont, Sal could see himself in the future. A dramatic actor like Paul Newman, Marlon Brando, Montgomery Clift. No longer sweet boy Sal, but a respected artist taking on serious roles. He went to bed with hope that night. When he woke up the next morning, his phone rang. It was Al Melnick calling, but his voice sounded different, lower, more serious. "There's a problem, Sal," said the manager. "Universal called. They've canceled the Hitchcock auditions." "Why?" Sal asked in surprise. There was a long silence. "They've heard some rumors about your private life." Sal's heart tightened. He understood. After that day, other phone calls were also canceled. Offered roles began to diminish. Scripts became scarce. When he went to Warner Brothers to see studio officials' faces, the doors that once warmly welcomed him were now closed. "Mr. Warner is very busy," assistants would say. "Maybe another time." However, Following this bright night, a strange silence fell. Phone calls began to decrease. Offers dropped. Studio executives stopped talking about new projects with him. By the late 1960 seconds, a pause had begun in Sal Mineo's career. Despite 2 Oscar nominations, big roles no longer came to him. Hollywood had known him as a child star and now didn't know where to place him as an adult actor. At the same time, a wind of change was blowing in the industry. The studio system had collapsed, and independent productions and a new film language had begun to develop. Sal was struggling to find his place in this changing environment. Preminger's words on the Exodus set were coming true like a prophecy. Hollywood seemed unwilling to accept Sal Mineo in adult roles. After 2 Oscar nominations, his career had slowly begun to fade. During this period, Sal was also experiencing an internal struggle. He was caught between questions about his identity, society's, and the industry's expectations, his own desires and dreams. Under Hollywood's bright lights, he was fighting to find his true self. Toward the end of 1960, when I looked in the mirror, I didn't know who I was. He would recount later. Was it the image created by the studio, or the real Sal Mineo? Which was real? 5 years after Dean's death, Sal Mineo's career had seen its peak and begun to decline. His rise as Hollywood's golden boy, beginning with Rebel Without a Cause and reaching its zenith with Exodus, formed one of the most striking career curves in American cinema history. After Exodus, Hollywood slowly began to close its doors to Sal. Big roles in major studio films were no longer offered to him. While his career drifted towards stereotypical roles and television guest appearances, he was nurturing a fire of rebellion inside. On one hand, he was focusing on a music career. On the other, he was turning to theater. Perhaps Hollywood's exclusion would help him find his true artistic expression. "I'll chart my own course," he thought. "If Hollywood doesn't want me, I'll write my own story." Thus, as Sal Mineo's bright rise in Hollywood ended at the close of 1960, a new artistic quest began. He was no longer just a star, but an artist determined to realize his own artistic vision. Hollywood's glitter is temporary, James Dean had once told him, but real art is what you put your soul into. As Sal remembered his mentor's words, despite the uncertainty of the path ahead, he felt a hope within. Asterisk. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to continue watching this extraordinary story and learn about Sal Mineo's period of decline in his career, his return to theater, and his tragic end. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Hollywood treated Sal Mineo fairly? Why did his career decline so rapidly? Asterisk.